29 of the Circle Back podcast, the show where two great friends get together and just talk about video games. I'm Dan LaMarca. As always, I'm joined by Dan Dufrenoy.
Adios? Wait, adios. Wait, wrong word. Hola.
Oh, I love it. All right, well, today is going to be an interesting episode. The entire episode is going to be us running through the E3 press conferences, and I'm going to explain what we're going to do because we're not going through every single game. What we are doing is going through every single game that we're interested in. So I made a list of games from each of the conferences, and we're basically going to go through starting on Saturday with EA and ending with Nintendo on Tuesday.
Let's do it.
Okay? So, first, EA. EA was Saturday. Full transparency here. I watched all the conferences. Dan was able to catch up on some of the trailers. He wasn't able to watch the conferences, so I'll be able to comment on the actual conferences, and I'll talk about how fucking weird Square Enix's conference was, but mostly we're gonna just be going through the games and talking about them. So starting with EA, we saw Unravel 2.
Yes.
I know Dan was a fan of
the
first
love
Unravel.
the first Unravel, and they released it that day, I think.
Yes, Unravel 2 is out. It looks cool. I mean, I did not like the platforming feel of the first Unravel, so I'm not too excited for this, but if they tweak it a little bit, it's co-op, it seems cool, and it has that same Unravel charm that we know and love.
Yeah.
So
it's very warm and friendly, and
that's neat. I'm sure maybe you'll play it with your sister now. It's co-op. It's
definitely
cool. Yeah. There was only a couple things here from EA that I was interested in at all, and one of them we didn't even see a snippet of is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order by Respawn, the guys that make Titanfall. So we knew they were making a game. We still don't know what the hell it is, but they announced that it'll take place between Episode 3 and Episode 4 in the Dark period, and so that's pretty much all.
I'm so disappointed. Remember that Star Wars game that was going to come out?
1313?
Oh,
yeah.
man.
No, I know. It looks fantastic. Also, that Amy Hennig Star Wars game.
Yeah. But that's going to be no more, right?
But what I'll say is I think it's very promising for a team like Respawn to be getting the Star Wars license, so I'm excited for that.
Nice.
The main thing that everyone was excited about is Anthem. So we got actually a good look at Anthem for the first time
New
ever.
BioWare game.
Yeah, it's a new game from BioWare, and as a lot of people thought it might be, it is appearing to be a Destiny-like game. So it looks like it's going to be co-op, instanced online experience where you're not constantly online with everybody, but in the hubs you might see other players, there might be events and stuff. But they did a really good job at showing the tone and the world, and showing a little bit of the gameplay, because we had seen in the past, these guys in the mech suits
with,
that are flying around with their jetpacks, and we're like, all right, what's the game really going to look like? And we saw a solid 4 or 5 minutes of gameplay, and it looks just as cool as we thought it would, because it really is like an Iron Man suit, boosting through, you're flying through. I saw one thing that got me really excited as a mech nerd is there's a heat meter that prevents you from flying forever, pretty much.
So if you get too hot.
But it's heating up, and you see the guy fly through the waterfall, and it goes, it cools down.
That's cool.
And I'm like, yes.
That's cool.
You guys get it.
That's cool.
So really neat to see stuff like that. And you saw a bunch of different weapons. I saw the one guy had a bunch of, missiles, short range.
But disappointing though, because
missile launcher kind of thing.
If it is just a Destiny, and if you're into Destiny, that's totally cool. But if it is just a Destiny where it's just looting and co-op, and it's not missing everything that I love about BioWare and stuff like that.
So I hear what you're saying, but what I think I think there's room at EA to make games that are. I think Dragon Age is going to be what you want, because I think they're going to move Dragon Age into a more RPG area, and they're going to move Anthem into a more action area.
Yeah.
And I could be totally wrong. This is just my impression of what I've seen so far, but it really looks like they've been open about saying, this is a BioWare game. It is going to have a good story and blah blah blah. But But they said the same thing about Destiny.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just
Destiny was BioWare?
no.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
saying people said the same thing
Right.
about Destiny as, you know, hey,
Destiny
we have a
is-
story, and yes, they did have a story, but it just wasn't very good.
Yeah.
So, can we expect the same thing from Anthem? Maybe.
I don't know. I'm hoping we'll. I don't know. Because I know how you feel about the Mass Effect games. It would just be really, really
Yes.
cool if it had that sort of like
That would be very
characters
cool.
and you know.
I just don't think it does.
Yeah.
It might though. I don't know. So we're gonna move on to the Microsoft conference. I'm gonna say E3 or EA in general. Really poor showing. A lot of time spent on sports and yada yada as you expect from EA, but they didn't have a ton. Oh, the one other thing that they did have that I didn't mention, I gotta look it up. There was a cool. So you know how they have that. They basically have something. It's EA Originals or yeah, it's that game Fee.
Oh, right. That just came out in February.
Yeah, that game and A Way Out were these EA Originals, and they announced a new one called Sea of Solitude also at this conference. I left it off my list, but I just remembered it. It looks really neat. Yeah, this is some of the art here, but it's, you know, we didn't get a really good look, but from what we could get from it, it seems like I don't know, the style of game, probably a third person, like, you know, Limbo-esque kind of thing, except from third person, but it definitely seems like a really interesting world, a really unique art style.
Definitely.
You know, it looked very cool, and I'm happy to see that kind of stuff out of EA. But for the most part, I was not very impressed with this conference in general. So we'll move on to Microsoft, which is the next conference on the list. This was Sunday afternoon, morning, whatever time zone you're in. Microsoft had a lot to show.
And I'm very upset because I don't have an Xbox One.
But here's the good part. 70% of what they showed is multi-platform.
Yeah.
So it's like Microsoft's whole mantra for this was, we want to be the first ones to show you games. So you're like, hey, these games are all coming to Xbox. So, you know, along with the fact, I'll mention briefly, they also announced a couple acquisitions. Something that Shelby will be really possibly excited for is that Microsoft announced that they bought Ninja Theory, which is the team that made Enslaved and the team that made Hellblade. And so they bought them, and now that's a Microsoft first party.
Wow.
And that's really cool. They've also bought Undead Labs, which made State of Decay.
Okay.
They bought Playground Games, which makes Forza Horizon. So they're really trying to make an effort, a public effort, to say we know we don't have the best first party offerings, but we want to change that.
That's
and so
awesome.
I really like that out of Microsoft. I don't want to go too deep into all these different business practices, but I thought that was an interesting one to discuss. So let's get to the games. This first one, Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit. So this is a game in the Life is Strange universe.
Okay.
It looks to be a Life is Strange style dialogue.
Is it Don't-Nod?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's basically a standalone experience that kind of is a lead-in to Life is Strange 2. So it's just a single episode. It's going to be free.
Oh, okay.
June 26th. Looks really, really cool. You play as this kid who thinks he's a superhero or dreams of being a superhero, I don't know, and it kind of flips between the real world and what he sees kind of thing.
Okay.
And it looks neat. It looks really neat. I mean, it has that like twee aesthetic that all Don't Nod games have. I guess I shouldn't say all Don't Nod games because I've been playing Vampire. And,
have you been playing it?
Yeah. We'll talk about that on the next episode. This one's a little jam-packed. But that looks cool. You know I love Don't Nod and I love Life is Strange. So excited to get a little taste of what season 2 might be. Then they announced Battletoads is returning.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that's really exciting.
So the original Battletoads has some good parts to it. It's a bad game because it's way too hard.
Classic though.
It's not a good game though. But they could do something interesting with it. I don't know if this was really, we were begging for this, but I think
Did they ever make a remake or a sequel to Battletoads at all? They have?
Yes, they have, and they've been bad. But I will say it was not Microsoft-owned studio or Rare, let alone. So this could possibly be Rare. We don't know.
Okay.
They might have even announced that, and I just didn't notice it. But Battletoads is set to release 2019, so we'll see what that's all about. Don't get too excited, I don't think, but who knows. They announced a Cuphead expansion,
Cool.
which looked really cool. They added Miss Chalice as like a playable character, and she looks really neat. More Cuphead is great because that game is absolutely fantastic. So excited to see what that's about.
Let's talk about this game.
Yeah, next game. So Cyberpunk 2077, we've been excited about for a long time. The guys that make The Witcher are making a Cyberpunk game. That's
really cool.
That's like a dream thing. You know what I mean? So what we saw at the conference, we'll talk about what we saw at this Microsoft conference, and then I'm going to talk about what we know because people at various websites have gotten hands-on behind closed doors at E3, and we can talk about that as well because that is way more exciting. So the trailer itself, really fucking cool. Basically a tone piece. Didn't show you anything about the gameplay. So what I'll say is I love that world, and I initially was a little put off by the main character / narrator being a little like, this world, here's what happens, here's how it goes. Like I was a little
terrible, and I'm gonna take care.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? And so, but there's a bunch of little vignettes in that trailer that all look incredible. The music is really good. Like you can tell that world is really like,
I would have just like explored
just like The Witcher. It's like they get every detail right.
Just
they do every little thing that you need to do to make a world feel fleshed out. So that's why I had faith in them no matter what. But then you see the little vignettes, like you see the girl putting on makeup and you just see her eyes at first, and then it pulls out and like her mouthpiece. She's like a robot, and her mouthpiece isn't in, and she's doing her makeup like this. It's fucking awesome. And then you see the guy on the train whose like face is on fire, and the two girls are like dancing on him.
It's just like.
And it's like, God damn, I just love this world. It looks so cool.
Definitely. Did they give a release date for Cyberpunk?
No. Didn't even give a release year. No. So they're basically saying...
And there's no gameplay, just the trailer.
But let's talk about the behind closed door stuff. So this is just me hearing about it, reading about it, that sort of stuff. I have no insider, information here, but it's a first-person game, which nobody expected.
Wait.
First person.
Really?
Yes. And apparently it's really good because it feels like an Elder Scrolls game with dialogue trees from a Mass Effect game and side quests of
That's so weird.
It's just such like I didn't expect it. I always thought it would be third person similar to The Witcher, but what people are saying is it feels like The Witcher in the story and the dialogue and the side quests, and then it feels like a first-person shooter, like a BioShock type thing.
That's awesome.
And then what's really cool about it is how deep the RPG elements are, because it has the 6 statistics from the Cyberpunk tabletop game, where it's like all these really incredible things where it's like, these are what you're putting your points into, and one of them is cool. And cool like allows you to like pull off shit that you wouldn't be able to pull off just because you're so cool. You know what I mean? Like it really it's really going for that cyberpunk.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really, really neat. The other thing that I've read is, obviously there's romance stuff like any of these style of games. But what I've definitely heard about is that the shooting seems pretty decent. It seems more like a Deus Ex style, like action, like kind of shooting.
Okay.
But again, you're also exploring this world, meeting new characters. Certain decisions will have other characters die and stuff like that. Like The Witcher was huge on that, where it's like, hey, your decisions really matter. Like this main character could just be gone if you don't side with them in certain things. It just looks like a really, really neat game. And they did say, hey, we wouldn't be like, it's not ready yet, but we wouldn't be showing you this if we didn't think we were nearing it.
Still, though, I wish I'm looking forward to some.
What I'm saying
gameplay, because that sounds really interesting.
But that's what they said was we wouldn't be showing this if we weren't getting ready.
All right.
So could be end of 2019.
Let's do it.
Or it could be 2020. But either way, I don't think it's gonna be much further out than that. So very excited about that. That's
cool.
That's one of my favorite games that I've seen here. But moving on through the Microsoft conference. Game that looked absolutely incredible is Dying Light 2. So, do you know the original Dying Light?
That's the one with the zombies, right?
That's one with the zombies. That's about
20%
of all video games, yeah.
No, but that's the one.
Yes.
I know the guy, he's got the club and the beard, and there's like, they're running zombies.
Yes. Dying Light is by the guys that made Dead Island, where it's very melee, like it has a very unique melee-focused combat, where like you have to like do certain inputs to like swing and stuff. Like it's really fun combat. But Dying Light was very focused on like parkour style things. So it's like you run on walls, jump off of them. It was like Mirror's Edge with zombies, and it was a really cool game. That first game was great. This one, they got Chris Avellone to write it, who is famous for like, you know, Planescape Torment, like all his old CRPGs, like really, really good writer. And he wrote Into the Breach, and he wrote like,
your guy. Yeah.
He just really, he is like the guy, honestly. Like if you want like a really he's very good at fleshing out worlds and stuff like that. And what they're doing is they're making this like systems-driven game where you, depending on like what faction you side with and certain decisions you make, it changes the world around you. Like they showed an example of like, all right, there's this water supply that's very valuable to people, obviously, in this like terrible world. So they found this thing of fresh water, like almost like a Mad Max, like Immortan Joe type thing. But so they're like, all right, you have the option. Do you want to tell this faction about it, who is like the enforcers, who like are all about law and order, or do you want to tell this guy about it, this faction about it, who are like black market traders, like that kind of stuff? And it's like, well, if you side with one, then the enforcers get it, and they kind of set up like a fascist like state where they're like, everyone gets this amount of water, you know, you step out of line, you're done, like sort of thing. So obviously that's not great. But if you did it the other way, then a lot of like, because the black market is like a seedier place with a lot of like, you know, criminals and stuff, all of a sudden the world is a lot more dangerous and people will attack you outright more. And it's like, so of course, like, all right, a little eye rolly where it's like, you know, what are we doing here? Like, all sides are bad kind of thing. But it's just interesting to see those kind of implications for the world when the first game had nothing like that. So it looked really, really cool, and it seems ambitious as hell.
They've had gameplay though for a while though.
With Dying Light 2?
Yeah, I want to say No. I'm thinking of a different game then. There's a guy, brown like leather jacket, beard.
Are you thinking of the Sony game, Sony Bend game, Days Gone?
Maybe it's Days Gone.
Yeah.
That could be it.
That's Days Gone.
Well, like, I just remember.
I know what you're talking about. That's like the DayZ style where they're like running in, there's big groups of zombies and stuff.
Yeah.
That's not this game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they wouldn't show a Sony game at the Microsoft conference.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, Dying Light 2 looks really, really cool. I'm excited for that. I think they also said 2019 for that.
Okay.
They showed a cinematic of Gears 5. Just called the Gears 5, which I thought was interesting. Not Gears of War 5. Just Gears.
You excited though?
No.
Yeah, I'm not really crazy.
Yeah, I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt, but we'll see. Interestingly enough, they also announced a Gears Funko Pop game for your iPhone, which is like the worst combination of things I could ever imagine. Like, I just can't think of a more terrible thing.
We all love Funko Pop though.
Who loves Funko Pop? I hate Funko Pop.
You hate the little figures?
They're terrible.
You don't like the Funko Pop figures?
Funko Pops are like the worst figures in the world. They all have those stupid faces. They all look the same.
Dude, I have like 20.
Oh, I hate Funko Pops.
Oh, they're so
much.
cool. They have
They're
everything.
not.
They have a Scrooge McDuck.
But what's cool about
They
them?
have a Pennywise the Clown.
Explain to me what's cool about them.
They have my BioShock one. I have a Big Daddy one.
Explain to me what's cool about them.
They take every like fandom ever
and morph it into this weird looking, like ugly ass thing.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It's awesome.
You know what I like? A nice figure.
I have a
Look at these beautiful amiibos.
I have a Leatherhead from the Ninja Turtles.
And does he have this big wide face and he looks stupid?
Yeah, he's got the eye,
Yeah,
but
it
it's
looks
freaking
terrible.
Leatherhead. Like, how else would you get these figures? How else would you be able to like get these figures of things?
I'd rather have no figure than a Funko Pop.
Whoa!
I hate
I know
Funko
what I'm getting
Pops.
you for your birthday.
I fucking hate
a
Funko
damn
Pops.
LaMarca
They are the
Funko
worst
Pop.
things ever. There's one single Funko Pop that I've ever seen that I've liked in my life. And it's the Cuphead Funko Pop that they announced here, because it literally just looks like Cuphead.
Well, I have an Iron
It doesn't
Giant.
have that face.
It looks like Iron Giant. It's amazing, man. These Funkos.
Get out of here.
are
I'm
just
done with
so
the
good.
Funkos.
They have a Chuck D and a Flavor Flav Funko
And
Pop.
they look like the same fucking thing as the next Funko Pop next to it. They're terrible. But anyway, they announced that stupid game, Funko Pop and Gears, which is like the worst combo I've ever heard. And then they also announced a Gears of War Tactics game. I think they called it just Gears Tactics.
Okay.
Or it was almost like an XCOM style Gears game. Interesting. I'm gonna be honest, I was not thrilled with the way it looked, but you know, I love my tactics games. So
I know you like your Tactics games.
I'll check it out. Then we have Halo Infinite. So Halo Infinite,
I did hear about this one.
we did not see any gameplay. We don't really know what it is. We saw a really interesting, basically cinematic trailer. Just said Halo Infinite. No release date or anything. Definitely curious. Is this Halo 6? Is it a separate thing that's
like a Halo Reach kind of thing?
Yeah, we have no idea what it is, but it was stylish in a way that I haven't seen a Halo game be in a long time, so I'm definitely intrigued by it. Then we got our first look at Just Cause 4, again, leaked by Walmart Canada, so we already knew about it. But, you know, I was a huge fan of Just Cause 2. 3 did absolutely nothing for me. I don't know if it was just too much of the same formula or if that game just wasn't very good. But they make really fun sandboxes to do funny shit in, and it unfortunately seems like they're sticking with that kind of darker tone, serious story, and it's like you just don't get why people like Just Cause. So we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong about that. A game I'm super excited about is Metro Exodus.
Yeah, I'm excited for that too.
They showed a little bit of gameplay of that. Looks really, really good. That's kind of that's on the same day as a million of these other games, because they said Crackdown 3 is releasing February 2019, Metro Exodus February 22nd, 2019, Days Gone February 22nd, 2019. They're all getting on the same day. Then we have Kingdom Hearts 3.
But they've been talking about that for...
We all knew about it. They showed many things for it in the past. This was real gameplay look. They announced the Frozen world. You know, for all you Kingdom Hearts fans, you're going to love this game, I'm sure.
Are you going to get it? You going to pick it up?
Absolutely not. I hate these games. But, you know, the funny thing about this game is it was at Microsoft, it was at Square Enix, it was at Sony, and it was the same goddamn trailer 3 times in a row with different things added on after. I was like, what are you guys doing? So, Kingdom Hearts fans, rejoice. It's coming out January 29th, 2019.
Yeah, everybody's freaking out.
Yeah.
That I know, at least. Everybody I know loves Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah. It's not...
I'm not crazy about it
It's
myself.
not a good game. It's interesting. Like,
it's a great concept.
It's a great concept. It's not a fun game to play. Then we have Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Oh, man.
What a game. What a game Ori and the Blind Forest is.
It breaks my heart because they said they were going to release that for PlayStation. They never did.
I would have told you that they would never do that. I don't know who told you that.
I read it somewhere. On the internet. You should trust everything you read on the internet.
Wherever you read that is a lie, because Microsoft published that game.
You should trust whatever you read on the internet.
That game would never come out.
That's what I'm saying.
I could have told you that from a mile away. But Ori and the Will of the Wisp looks like Ori and the Blind Forest 2, and it looks absolutely incredible, just like the first one. From what I've heard with a couple hands-on demos, it sounds like they added a lot of things mechanically to make the Metroidvania elements a little bit stronger, and it makes me very excited.
Cool, man.
It's one of the best Metroidvanias out there. It's a really good game. Last thing I have on my list here is Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. So this is the From Software game that they've been teasing. They teased at, I forget what it was, Game Awards maybe?
No, I forget what it was. It was like a bloody rope.
Yeah, so we figured out what that was, because we saw, so I think it was Game Awards, but whenever it was shown, what we saw was this teaser. It's a From Software, and then it was this like rope with these bones, and it was like like twisting and doing whatever. So this trailer opens with a guy getting his arm cut off, like here.
Right. He's got.
And then you see that he gets like this arm attached. So it's obviously that's what the teaser was they're making him a new arm, and the game looks just absolutely incredible. So we saw some cinematics and we saw some gameplay, and from what it looks like, it has elements of a Souls game, it has elements of a Bloodborne game, and it has elements that we haven't seen in a From Software game. So it's like, it seems to have the tactical combat, plus they emphasize this one shot where he like goes down and his axe or whatever, his sword or his axe, like extends out, and it looks like a transforming weapon like in Bloodborne.
Gosh.
Which is really, really interesting.
It just looks so cool in the world, and there's like
the world looks so great. It's in
the jumping maneuvers too, like
But that's what I was gonna say. The new mechanic looks like you could like rope
and
like swing up.
Yeah.
And it just it looks so good.
Man.
The combat looks so fluid. Really, really cool boss designs. We already saw like that huge guy that like spits poison onto his sword.
Yes.
We saw the big enemy with like very Souls-looking enemy with the big thing around his neck that like comes over and grabs you and slams you into the ground. And then at the very end, it shows like this big ass snake going after you on this bridge.
That's so cool too.
Yeah. So it obviously has the Souls DNA.
But it looks like they're adding a little bit more.
Yeah, looks like they're trying to make it its own thing, which I love. Mm-hmm. I would rather them do this than make a sequel to anything because I trust, like they have my trust.
Did they give a release date?
No, I don't think they did. I think they might have said 2019. Let's look that up.
That's a definite first purchase.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
That's so exciting. Because everybody was talking about like Bloodborne 2, but honestly, like I'm glad. Let's leave Bloodborne the way it was, and like here's something new, something exciting. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool.
Do they have anything else to say about it? Like anybody, like you said, like
they just said 2019.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much all we know about it so far. I think people are getting hands on with it behind closed doors, so we'll hopefully hear some more about that soon.
Awesome. I can't wait. That's probably out of all these games so far,
good.
That's the most I'm excited for.
So with that, that's the end. So again, this is not every game that Microsoft announced, but we also got our first look at Fallout 76. They didn't show much because they knew the Bethesda conference was going on later. Mm-hmm. So we got our first look there. Really strong conference by Microsoft, and like I said, showing all these third-party games paired with a couple of their own games with Battletoads, with Gears, with Halo.
Right.
They're trying to bring out their first-party stuff while also announcing all these third-party games. Ori, Halo, Cuphead expansion, Battletoads. Like they're really saying everything we have, we're trying to give. But the Captain Spirit is third-party. That's going to come to everything. They're all the rest are coming to everything, but they did a good job of mixing up both of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was Microsoft. I think it was a really strong conference, and then we move on to Bethesda later that night, Sunday night, and I think Bethesda had a really strong conference too. They started out with Rage 2. They started out with the Andrew WK song, like just fucking. That's the thing. I love Andrew WK and how ridiculous he is and over the top, and the crowd was not having it. Not having it. He was going nuts, and the crowd was just sitting there like, It was so funny to see. But Rage 2, in a similar vein, so the way I would describe it is the original Rage was very self-serious and trying to be... It had parts that were ridiculous, but it was trying to tell like a dark, serious game, and it was like this. Like I just did not like the first Rage. I thought the gameplay mechanics were totally fine. It's an id Software game. They know how to shoot things, but didn't do anything for me. Rage 2, going a totally different direction, going way over the top. You basically can get superpowers. They showed off. Again, gunplay looks really, really nice. Not that interested in it. Yeah, that's the one low point in this conference, I would say. I just don't really think, and I could be surprised because Doom 2016 was a huge surprise for me, but I just don't see it with this game.
No,
it's possible. We'll see. I'm willing to hear about it. But
speaking of Doom,
speaking of Doom, this was exciting. They announced basically Doom 2. They said it's a direct sequel to Doom. It's called Doom Eternal. And the trailer was fucking incredible. It was really, really good where it just showed, it looks like it's going to be hell on earth. Because they showed like a bunch of demons walking around and like a really dilapidated, and then it was like street lights and a skyscraper and like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool and really good music, like just like the first Doom game where it's just so over the top, like metal, like really. I'm just so excited for that game. I really love that first Doom game. Now, then they went on to talk about Fallout 76.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
let's dig into this a little bit because Fallout 76 was teased, with that
Right,
before
you see,
E3.
you see the guy in his
Yeah.
suit with the 76 on the back.
Right, yeah. So they announced it. All right, Fallout 76. Let's talk about it. And then they basically said basically it's a online multiplayer Fallout game.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be online only. And the thing that got me a little pissed off about this is they did not pitch it in that way. When they announced it, all right, hey, Fallout 76, find out more at E3. And then at Microsoft, they do a Fallout trailer, don't show any gameplay, don't talk about that as co-op and stuff. And it's like, they were pitching it as a real
new
Fallout
game,
game.
like a new Fallout. Yeah.
So it was very disingenuous. And that's the one thing I did not like about Fallout 76.
It's like all the Elder Scrolls games that, online, like all that sort of...
Yeah, Elder Scrolls Online
Yeah.
is a very, very beloved and prosperous MMO. But Fallout 76 appears to be a small... So what they talked about was like, you're in this world with... You can have up to 4 friends, and then there are other people living in this world. There will be no other NPCs, they said. There will be no NPCs, and there will be enemies, and just other players. So what that reads to me like is this is going to be a totally dead world, and it has nothing about why people even like Fallout. So I'm interested to see the reception of this game, because without NPCs and side quests
all those
and
weird things that you can do.
Yeah, I'm very curious. It seems like there's a lot of building.
It seems like it's gonna be like, how you were mentioning talking about Sea of Thieves, where like it's like you just like go and you meet other people. It's like that's cool, but that's like it.
Yeah, I'll be curious. Maybe there's more than what they're talking about now. But again, a little lackluster here. That game will be very popular.
No, I'm sure it will.
And
like
people will love it.
The Elder Scrolls Online is very popular.
But think about it like this: this could be Minecraft in a Fallout world where you're building with your friends.
Yeah, but without the NPCs and without those wacky...
Minecraft doesn't have it. This is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It might just be a totally different game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, we'll see what this game really is. And then they moved on to something near and dear to my heart. They announced a DLC for Prey called Moon Crash. So this was an interesting one because it's not what I expected. I expected a Death of the Outsider style, single-player expansion where they herd you, they're going to take out all the enemies, they're going to do this, actually make the game you wanted it to be. And what they did instead was make a bunch of different game modes. And it's like, there's like a roguelike mode.
Okay.
Where it's like run-based.
And
you're expected to die.
But in the same game...
I don't know if because they did announce there's Moon Crash, there's this moon base that where a lot of this is going to be taking place. So I'm assuming it's a total, because we weren't on the moon in Prey.
In the space station.
Yeah. So it seems like this is a moon base.
Okay.
And so they announced that. They announced New Game Plus for the original game.
Okay.
Which is nice. And they announced this Typhon Hunter mode.
Okay.
Which is a 6-on-1 mode, multiplayer mode, where there are 6 people playing as mimics.
Oh.
And 1 person playing as the hunter.
That's kind of funny.
And the mimics, you can become any object in the game.
You could be a chair, you could be a wrench.
You could be anything. And it's interesting to me. I don't know if I'm going to play it. I think it's a cool idea, though.
Yeah.
And I think there will be people that really enjoy it.
When did Prey come out? That was last year.
Yeah, last May.
When's the DLC coming out soon?
It launched that night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's already out. Okay.
Yeah. So, interesting. I would have loved more of the Prey that I knew and loved. Rather than this, but we'll be all right without that. Something really interesting, more in the vein of what I wanted from Prey, is Wolfenstein Youngbloods.
Yes.
So it's like a standalone full expansion for Wolfenstein. Takes place in the 80s. I'm very interested about the story implications of this, because if it takes place in the 80s and you're playing as BJ's twin daughters and it's still Nazi ruled, what are they going to do for Wolfenstein 3? Because he's going to lose then. You know what I'm saying? I'm very curious about that. But we'll see.
When was Wolfenstein 2? That was 61, right? That was
I think it was 68.
Okay, so we're in the 60s.
Yeah. I think it was 68 because it was a lot around the moon stuff.
Okay.
66, 68, something like that. So yeah, this is adult, grown up, BJ's twin daughters.
Right.
It was, again, this was more of a tone trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool 80s aesthetic.
Yeah.
Cool music.
it's got that.
I really liked what they were showing, and I like the idea of playing as these, because it was these two girls that are BJ's daughters, obviously, and one of them's like training, like beating up like a heavy bag. One of them's like sniping, like, and it's just like it seems like they had the right tone of what they're going for. So I'm definitely interested for that. They said 2019 for that as well. And then we get into the really, really interesting far out stuff. Game called Starfield that we had talked about was rumored for a very long time. It's the next true Bethesda Softworks game with the same team that makes Fallout and Elder Scrolls, and it's in space.
Okay.
And they didn't show anything. They showed a little, pull out from a planet.
We're talking about the story, right?
Space.
It's those sort of games in space.
We don't know.
But there's nothing.
This is the rumor.
Okay.
They never showed anything. This has been rumored for like 6 months to a year.
Okay.
So Todd Howard came on stage. He said specifically the next game by Bethesda Softworks, that main core team, is going to be Starfield.
Okay.
And then they've already started development on Elder Scrolls 6, but it's coming after Starfield.
Okay.
So
it must be like a few years. It's going to be.
He said Starfield is a next generation game. So I'm wondering what that means, because we have a very specific interpretation of what next generation means, but it might mean for him
like it's a stepping stone.
It's our next generation of software, of this engine. I don't know what he's going for with that. Really curious, because if that's the next game, so there's not going to be another Fallout or another Elder Scrolls until this game.
We're looking.
I mean, I'm fine with it because Doom Eternal looks incredible to me. Wolfenstein Youngblood looks good. Like I'm okay.
I kind of want another Elder Scrolls game though.
Yeah, Elder Scrolls 6, a little ways out. They really didn't show anything. They showed a landscape.
But it's probably be them like talking about it, and then like 5 years from now, that's the weird thing about E3 is like you can get like these cool like teasers. And then you're waiting. I remember like Last Guardian, it was like that. Like Last Guardian,
it was a very troubled game, though, I'll say.
Yeah.
That was a little different. I think Cyberpunk 2077 is a good example of that, where they showed that initial teaser 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and then nothing, and then now they're showing another trailer, and you still haven't seen gameplay. You're right. I'm not a fan of that personally. I think what honestly happens is one of two things. One is the team is very excited to talk about what they're making. The two is the company and the shareholders are saying we need to show what's coming out next so that we get people excited. Mm-hmm. So
even though you gotta wait freaking 5 years.
Yeah. So that was Bethesda. I think it was a really strong conference overall. I saw a lot of enthusiasm from the people on stage. I think Pete Hines always does a really good job at being genuine. He said, who's excited to fuck up some Nazis again on stage about Wolfenstein Youngbloods, and it's like, man, I really do like that. So that was Bethesda. Big fan of that conference. Next one kicked off Monday morning. Square Enix. I'm just going to start by saying maybe the worst conference I've ever seen.
Ever.
Like
E3
maybe
history.
ever. Yeah, maybe
well, like,
ever.
is this any conference of anything ever?
E3 specifically.
Hey, this is the worst conference.
Yeah,
I've ever
can't
seen
talk about
anything.
Yeah, can't necessarily say that. But they started off with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. They showed a gameplay demo of it. It did not look good. It didn't look good. It looked outdated and clunky, and the weird like ambient dialogue from the enemies was really like laughable. It was weird. And what made it even worse is that later that night Sony showed The Last of Us Part 2, and they were very similar style demos where it was like skulking through and taking people out and blah, blah, blah.
But compared.
But you see, let me give you a little tiny example of what I'm talking about. In Tomb Raider, Lara takes out a guy, and so he's talking, they're talking like in a Batman game or something, like, hey, blah, 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 whatever, we got to keep an eye out for the Tomb Raider, blah, blah, whatever. Guy walks away, Lara shoots the other guy with the arrow, and next time when he finds the body, goes, whoa, we got a body over here. And so initially you're like, okay, it's a video game. It's a video game, whatever. Then you see The Last of Us, and they very specifically, I don't remember the name, I think it was like Evan or something, but they're talking, these two people are talking, and then one of them goes down, and the other person sees, like, God, Evan, no! Like, specifically about that person.
Yeah.
Like, they're a human.
Right, it wasn't
not
just like
we got a body. It's like, hey, this is your friend that you work with, and you're like, we got a body over here. It's like, what the fuck? It was just so weird to see where you're like...
The disparity.
What do you... Yeah. It's not...
It's not as immersive as...
well, not even a little bit. Like, it's just not... But that's just a minor example of an overall just...
Got a body over here.
Not only that, it was just... Like, you saw some cool moves from her. You saw her do the Batman thing of, like she's on a tree, and she, like, shoots an arrow at the guy and then pulls him and, like, hangs him up. And it's like, that's neat. And it looks like it's probably going to be fun to play. But it just seems like it's left behind, man. It really does. It seems like it's in the dust. I don't really know how to explain it better than that. It's strange, and we know it's not that same team that made the first two games.
That's the thing. I love those games.
Those were great games, and this is the first time I've seen this game and said, I don't know if I want to play that.
Yeah.
And it's weird to say because I'm telling you, those first two games are like really,
amazing,
really great.
Yeah.
But we'll see. So they kicked it off with that, and the weird part is, that was maybe the high point of this conference.
Experience was weird.
And it wasn't good, and it was the best thing that they showed by far. So they showed a bunch of games that I personally don't care about. They showed a crossover between Final Fantasy 14 Online and Monster Hunter, and I don't care about either of those, so whatever. Then they showed one thing that I was definitely interested in. Called Babylon's Fall.
Okay.
It literally looked like a Dark Souls. So we didn't see gameplay. It was more of like a tone piece. But you saw these big rusty knights and these like really striking designs, very in the line of Dark Souls. And then what happens is this guy's like on his knees and he looks like he's about to get executed. And then like he like does this and like an energy, like these spikes of energy like come out like a whip and like go through the guy and slice him up. And then it cuts and it says Platinum Games. So it's like new game by Platinum, like Bayonetta Platinum. Like if this is like an action game that's a Dark Souls action game, I'm in. It's called Babylon's Fall. It was a brief teaser. No promises that that's what it is, but I was very interested in that.
Cool. Then
a bunch more games that I don't care about, and then there's this game. One of the absolute weirdest things I've ever seen. So it's this like random white dude walking with like a brown paper bag, and he's walking up. It's FMV, full motion video.
Okay.
So it's a video, and it's this guy walking, and there's two like really stereotypical like Spanish guys going like, "Hey, what's up, man?" Like in the back alley, like, "What are you doing here?" And the guy sits here and he puts down his little brown paper bag. And they're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" They're like yelling at him. And he just goes. And then it moves in, the camera zooms in, and then it turns into gameplay. And you like beat the shit out of them. And then it zooms back out and it's full motion video. And then the trailer cuts and says The Quiet Man. And that was it.
Nothing to do with anything.
It was so bad. It was just so weird. Like, what a fucking terrible name. What a weird ass game. It was just bizarre. Totally bizarre. And then, that was Square Enix. We saw more Kingdom Hearts, which who gives a shit, but bad conference. Very, very bad. Then we moved on to Ubisoft.
Okay.
Again, Square Enix, what I should say is, it was a 30-minute showing where it was just a video, nobody on stage or anything. It was like what Nintendo does. 30 minutes, here's a bunch of trailers, a bunch of them looked real shitty. That was it.
That's it. Yeah.
They showed Dragon Quest XI. Looked fine. I'm just saying that there was not a lot that was interesting to me. I think Babylon's Fall was interesting to me, and you can have the rest.
All right.
Ubisoft kicked it off like they always do with a musical number. They love their their like dancing and singing and craziness. And then so they did the musical number and they announced Just Dance 2019 or whatever it was. I don't even know what it actually was, but they announced Just Dance, and then they went immediately into Beyond Good and Evil 2, and they showed another cinematic CG trailer. Really cool one. I would recommend you watch it. I like the tone they're going for. I like a lot of the stuff they're doing. And then right after, Joseph Gordon-Levitt comes on stage.
Nice.
Because they're partnering with his company, Hit Record.
Okay.
To fund people to make things in the game. So
And Beyond Good and Evil.
Now here's the interesting thing. So the idea is they're basically crowdsourcing music for the game, like to play on the radios, fake, disc jockey, like DJs, fake certain art for the game, like to put on billboards and stuff. At a top level, sounds interesting. Joseph Gordon-Levitt said they have $50,000 to pay people to do this. $50,000 to pay people, to pay the million people that are going to make the stuff for this game.
So I'm still a little confused by that whole practice now.
Yeah, so what they're literally doing is sign up for our Space Monkey program.
You can make a level in Beyond Good and
Not
Evil?
a level.
Just
art, music.
Okay.
Maybe like voice. Like, you're basically submitting things
that could be used in the game.
That could possibly be used in the game. And if your stuff gets used, you might get a payday. Isn't that great? No, it's not fucking great. Because you're asking people to make things, and if you don't get chosen, you don't get $1. And so it's free labor for them. It's horrible. It's a terrible business practice. I hate the idea of it.
That's weird.
I think there is a way that this works because people like Steam do this. Steam, in a game like Dota 2, they have community members that make skins for the characters that sell, and they get a cut of when their thing sells. And Steam pays out millions of dollars each year to people that make cosmetic items for Steam Valve games. That's the right way to do it. Like, there are people that literally will make $30,000 a year making Dota skins. That's like fantastic because they're doing that on the side.
Right.
Like, that's a really, really cool thing. When you're coming out and saying we have $50,000 for anyone that wants to make these games, it's like, what the fuck?
That's weird.
It was really off-putting for me. I did not like that at all. I'm curious if their heart is in the right place or if they know what they're doing.
They think being shady and being like,
I'm interested.
We're going to get free labor.
Yeah, I am interested because the idea of, hey, if you like try to make something and it'll be in the game, like, isn't that so cool? You'll get something in our game.
Yeah, they're trying to like lure people in, but like they're really just
don't like it.
Filling their pockets.
So regardless of that, separate yourself from that. Beyond Good and Evil 2, the trailer was very good, very interesting. Still haven't seen any gameplay. I heard some people are touching it behind closed doors. I heard it's very early looking, like very early. So I don't know when the hell this game's coming out, maybe 2021.
Okay.
Then they jumped into The Division 2.
Okay.
The first Division had a lot of interesting concepts. I think it took that Destiny framework and did something really interesting with it. I'm definitely not a Division hater. I just couldn't really get into it because I thought the story was silly and I thought the gameplay, like the actual shooting mechanics were really, really good, but I didn't like how spongy the enemies are. And it felt very much like an MMO where you're just like hitting, except you're shooting instead. You know what I mean?
I think I played The Division once with our buddy Scott.
Okay.
And that was enough. And I was just like, okay.
Yeah. It's like, I think they did a lot of interesting things for the genre, and I think The Division 2 is actually looking pretty interesting. I still don't think it's for me, but I think it was a good showing, and they showed some gameplay. It looked interesting. So, Division 2, not bad. They announced a Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle Donkey Kong expansion.
Donkey Kong expansion.
They brought out Grant Kirkhope onto the stage. He's the man that made all the music for all the Donkey Kong games, or Banjo-Kazooie. Like, he is the guy. And they did a live score for the trailer. It was really cool.
Oh, damn.
I really enjoyed that a lot because his music is really good. But I will say, this Donkey Kong expansion looks huge. It looks almost like a brand new game. Yeah. It's like 5 or 6 worlds or something. Like, it's a lot. And, new playable characters. They have a Cranky Kong Rabbid. And they have Donkey Kong. And, it looks really cool. I like that game a lot. So I'm interested to see what they could do with that. Then we have something that's very interesting to me, believe it or not.
Yeah?
Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Okay, lay it on me.
So you haven't seen this at all, right?
No, but I know of it, though.
So I'll tell you,
it's like
they did the impossible, Dan. They got me interested in an Assassin's Creed game.
It's Greek, right? It's like
Greek,
mythology?
yeah. It's the Athens, Sparta,
okay.
That
but
thing.
You're interested.
The reason I'm interested is because they are continuing to get away from Assassin's Creed in the way that I don't like.
Okay.
Origins was close because the combat felt a lot weightier. It was almost a little Witcher-like. Like, it felt pretty cool. Now they have dialogue options.
Oh, so it's not just
romance options.
Okay.
It looks like a Mass Effect style, like, dialogue wheel.
Really?
I'm like,
It's not just, hey, Ezio, go over here and press X and kill this guy.
That's what I'm saying.
Hey, Ezio,
it's not.
go over here and stab this guy.
And they basically talked about.
To the people that like it.
But they talked about there are implications, like you can have a non-lethal mission, and there are implications for what happens. And there are things that are like you choose a side, but like one or the other in certain missions, and the other side, you might ruin a relationship with somebody, and you might even fight them on the battlefield, and like real characters can die. So they're continuing to move towards things that I like.
They've been listening to you,
I love it.
They've been watching the Circle Back podcast.
Yeah, definitely have. But yeah, it honestly looked really interesting. I think some people are upset that they're back to, Origins came out last year, back to yearly, whatever. But interesting nonetheless. For me, I didn't play Origins, so I'm not going to be burnt out on it. I might give this a shot.
When's it come out?
This October, I think.
Really?
Yeah. October or November. Let me look it up quick.
Huh.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Origins kind of intrigued me too, though. And I just never got, around to it. But yeah, I think just, my minimal experience with Assassin's Creed, but
October 5th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're very similar. You're in a similar boat to me. And I had the same thing. Origins got me a little interested.
I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool.
They changed some stuff in a way that I like, but you're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
And now this might be a step far enough where I might try.
Assassin's Creed. Yeah. Thanks for listening to Dan.
So that's it for Ubisoft. I think a pretty strong conference overall. Not a lot of surprises, but the games that they showed looked pretty good. Now we're on to the big one.
All right, let's do this. I'm excited.
This is the big one for us, especially, we're big Sony first-party fans.
PlayStation fanboys.
I don't know about that, but Sony conference, they announced ahead of time, we're doing deep dives into 4 games.
Okay.
That's what they said. We're doing 4 games. Here's what they are.
I thought you
Last of Us Part 2.
Like, yes, do it.
No, that's what they said. They said that ahead of time. They said Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Death Stranding, and Spider-Man. They said we're doing deep dives into that. That's pretty much all we're going to do. So I was happy to see along the way that there were a few little surprise announcements. They had little intermissions and stuff. So top level, before we get into any of the games, this conference was super fucking weird. Super weird. They put everybody in this place.
It was long too.
Guy came up,
like
played
40, right?
a banjo. Yeah, played a banjo for 5 minutes, and it was the guy that's scoring The Last of Us Part 2, so you understand it. But he was just somberly sitting there playing the banjo. It was neat, but it's like, yo, you're in a crowd of 10,000 people. Like, they came here not for this. So this guy played, Then it cuts to a Last of Us trailer, and the reason they have them in this weird church-looking place with the lights is because it was modeled after the area in the demo that they were showing. Mm-hmm. So it kind of like showed that, and then it went into the demo, and it was actually interesting. Like, okay,
with the lights and everything.
Yeah.
Hanging.
Okay, I see what you're going for. Whatever. Now, before we talk about The Last of Us 2, then they brought everyone that was in that stadium, brought them, said, all right, everyone up, we're going somewhere else. And they went to a different area in a different stadium and sat them down and then showed the other 3 demos in that second stadium. So very weird, and it also made it for a weird pace because after the Last of Us demo, they jumped to like a canned conversation between like different PlayStation employees where they're like, oh man, what'd you think of that Last of Us trailer? Oh, it was great. We have something special for you coming up. And then they started talking, and then they were like, all right, here it is, Resident Evil Remake 2, check it out. And they showed it, and then when they were finished with their segment, they were like, all right, back over to the other arena now that they're in.
What?
Because they didn't know what to do while the people were walking over to the next place and getting sat.
That's weird.
It was weird. Very poorly paced, very weird. But before we go into the main 4, I want to talk about 3 games specifically that were announced here. So Resident Evil 2 Remake was already announced.
Cool.
We knew it was happening.
That's cool.
They showed it. Looks really nice.
Mm-hmm.
They're totally doing ground up, new gameplay style. It's going to play like Resident Evil 4. Like they're changing a lot about it. It's really interesting. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, check that out, definitely.
There's a game called Control by Remedy, who made Alan Wake, Max Payne, Quantum Break more recently. This game called Control has such a striking art style and such an interesting looking sci-fi world. Like, you need to check this out. It was like Psyops and Inception like had a baby. It was just really fucking cool. Like this game got me really excited to try it out. Yeah, this whole conference was very light on release dates, even for a game like Spider-Man that has a release date. They never said it. I don't know why. I don't know what the deal was. So I don't know when Control's coming out, but my eyes are on that game for sure. And then the last one, Neo 2.
Cool.
I really enjoyed Neo a lot last year. I'm worried about Neo 2.
Why?
They only showed a brief cinematic, so it's not like I'm worried about the game because of the game. I'm worried about it because FromSoft is making a Sekiro. Ghost of Tsushima, which we're about to talk about, looks fucking fantastic. It's like, is there room now for Neo 2?
Yeah, when you have all these other great games.
And they're going to be... I'm not just saying great games. I'm saying that style of gameplay and that Japanese, Chinese, like... Because I think Tsushima is China, not Japan.
Gotcha, okay.
But I'm just saying, they're very similar. And it's like, oh, Neo 2, I don't know, man. You might be the odd one out here. But anyway, those are the 3 main games that I was very excited they had announced during this conference. Now we'll jump to the main 4.
Okay.
First one, they showed Last of Us Part 2.
Last of Us Part 2.
So we watched the demo.
Right.
We watched the gameplay. Just totally recaptured the feeling of that first Last of Us.
Looks amazing. I'm ready. Put it out, baby.
It looks so good, doesn't it?
So good.
That first of us. This is what I almost just said. The first of us. That first.
You're not the last. We were the
first Last of Us E3 gameplay demo that they showed. It was this extended demo where it ends with like the shotgun to the face. Like it was this whole big thing where like you saw Ellie throw Joel a brick and he would hit someone or she would whack somebody. Like I remember it so vividly. This whole scene in this like hotel where they're like busting through walls and stuff. And you're just watching it like, how is this gameplay? How is this gameplay? And they did it again where you're watching this Last of Us Part 2 demo and you're watching her do this and you're like, how the fuck is this gameplay?
It's like a movie. There's points where like someone's coming at her, she died.
But everything about it was...
It's like John Wick.
But it's not like...
Which I finally watched.
But what I'm saying is, it's hard to understand how that's gameplay. She gets shot with the arrow and she goes, oh... And then like she goes behind the wall and like pulls it out and there's no HUD, there's nothing, and it's like, how is this gameplay? I just can't understand it. And like you don't see the person behind you, you get hit and you're like, oh shit, and then this person like, but it made you feel that in like that tenseness that you actually felt playing the first Last of Us. You know what it actually did for me? Because I haven't played The Last of Us in a long time. it made me remember why we love that game so much. And it's that tension when you're fighting humans because you don't know how they're going to react, and you're like trying to avoid them, and you're sneaking around, and you're like, oh god,
And
like,
you attack, yeah.
Yeah, it really reminds you, like, man, that game was so good. And then it gets you so excited for this fucking game. It looks better graphically than anything I've ever seen.
Well, seriously, when I first saw it, I was just like, oh my god. When they're in the dance hall and she's dancing with her girlfriend, I was like, oh my gosh, these look like real people.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like they just, like...
And I'll also
real
say,
people.
that opening scene, before even the gameplay, was fucking awesome. It's really well done. That whole thing with where she's talking to the ex-boyfriend, and she's like, you guys will be back together in 2 weeks. And then they're dancing, and she, like, kisses her and stuff. I'm like, man, that is, like, really fucking good. And then they cut, and of course they should be terrified of you.
And then it goes into her.
And then it's her being
yeah,
terrifying, and then it was really well done. I thought it was a really effective trailer, and it was nice to see gameplay of that game.
I'm excited.
I'm very excited. Then we jumped into Ghost of Tsushima. So this is the newest game by Sucker Punch.
Okay.
Guys that made Infamous, all the Infamous games. Really good games, but obviously they're getting way more ambitious with this one based on the trailer alone. Another just absolutely gorgeous, amazing looking game. Like, you saw riding the horse through those fields of grass.
Man. It was like a Kurosawa movie. It looked amazing.
It's incredible.
Oh my
Looks
goodness.
absolutely incredible. But then you see the gameplay of that too. And when it sold me immediately, because the second you see the enemies and he pulls out the sword and he's standing there and he comes over and he does the one slice,
That's it.
the diagonal slice, and the guy goes down, you're like, holy shit.
Like, yeah.
Like, that looks so cool.
Oh, man.
I've always wanted a game like that where it wasn't about fighting a bunch of enemies.
Yeah.
It's about your deliberate, quick strikes. Like, it looks so good.
It looks amazing.
It looks so good.
It really looks amazing.
This whole demo was really, really nice, and showed some of the story stuff. It's the Mongol invasion, and you're playing basically this badass samurai that's trying to, save the world pretty much.
Save the world.
Yeah.
There you go.
It just looks so good. I'm very,
It
very
really is,
excited.
and I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And
Nobody did. They just showed
it's
that
just a
mini
great-
teaser.
It's just a great surprise, like a game, like Last of Us. We already are familiar. Like, this is like a new thing.
Yes.
That's
Absolutely.
exciting. That's
Totally
exciting.
agree. It
That's
looks
exciting.
so good. Then we get into Death Stranding. So you haven't seen the Death Stranding
No, not
demo.
the newest recent one. I'm guessing there's more babies in jars and.
More babies in jars. So the interesting thing about this demo is it showed gameplay.
Okay.
And it also answered some questions about the world. Now, doing this is a double-edged sword, because it simultaneously gives you more insight into what the game is and makes you a little less excited because you're learning more rather than asking questions. You know what I mean? So the gameplay is third person, behind the back, and all that we saw from gameplay was you're playing as Norman Reedus, and you're walking around, you're a delivery man. I don't know what you're delivering, I don't know where you're delivering it to, but you're walking around this beautiful landscape of like these like Scotland-looking rocky hills, and he's like climbing stuff, he's like crossing bridges, and he's like holding this huge-ass backpack, and you're like, what the hell is this game? And then you see him get taken down by the monsters or whatever. And so what we learned so it's still a lot of mystery, obviously, to this game, but what we my interpretation of what we learned is, so we already knew that the rain and the monsters were like aging, right? So the whole idea is, if they touch you, these things that are like, it almost seems like they're in another plane of existence, right? If they touch you, you age rapidly. We saw it in the last trailer where it grabbed the guy and he like got really old.
Yeah.
Now, you see the monster walking and you see grass growing and then dying very rapidly, like everywhere he steps, right? So you know it's aging. You see him step on this photograph that Norman Reedus has, and it gets like very old looking really quickly, right? Now, I'm finally starting to understand. I think, and I could be wrong, I think this baby that's in the jar is a clone of himself. Because if he gets taken down by these things, it'll age up to his current age, and he will die, but it will age, and now he is a grown man again.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think that's
Kojima. What are you...
I think that's what he's doing. I'm pretty sure. And we have no real... Nobody said that. I just have a feeling that that's what it is. But I'm still interested in the fact that they keep showing the baby inside of him as well as in this jar. So I'm like, does he have like a bunch of babies? What's going on? So lots of questions still. I'm still just very excited to see what the hell this game is.
I'm very excited for this game.
But again, like I said, first of all, they introduced a couple new characters. They showed off a couple people. Something really weird. One of the new female characters, she said like a something a day keeps the aging away, and she eats this like weird, like it looks like a centipede, but it's really fat and thick, and it looked almost like human-like. And she just goes, and she's crunching on it and like swallows it. It's like, so like I don't know what the fuck is going on, but game looks weird as hell, and I love it. So I'm very excited for that.
Awesome.
Last thing we saw at Sony is Spider-Man. So we know this game comes out September 7th. They showed an extensive gameplay demo, and it looks so much fun to play. It looks like it's just going to be fucking
Did they
awesome.
mention any, since I didn't see it, did they like release like any of the characters like from like the canon?
They showed 5 of the Sinister Six. Actually, 4 of the Sinister Six, because there was a 5th guy, which is the main villain that we saw in the previous one, the guy in the helicopter with the... They showed Rhino, Electro, Scorpion,
cool.
and I forget who.
Shocker
Vulture.
Vulture's there.
Am I thinking of Shocker instead of Electro?
Well, no, there's 2. Electro.
It was Electro. Yeah. Didn't see Shocker.
All right. Still, that's really cool though. I think.
So we saw them 4, and it basically the gameplay demo was they're at the raft where they're all being held, and they break loose. And then they're like one by one finding him. It's very Arkham Asylum style.
I love that though.
But it looks cool. It looks really cool.
That's cool.
And just, it had such a good, so the gameplay looks great in just what, it's almost like you're building a combo meter and then doing like a special ability kind of thing. Like you saw him like doing a bunch of cool stuff, and then he jumped up in the air and like did a big, like webs came out of everywhere and webbed everyone on the ground. So it definitely has the Arkham DNA, the Shadow Mordor DNA, like that style of combo, do a big ability kind of thing. But what I really liked was when he was like swinging. So swinging looks great. I will say there were a lot of points of like articulation where you can swing to on each object that you see. It's not like, these fixed points. It seems like it's a lot because you see little dots as you're like getting close to it, and you can like pick which one you're gonna swing to. What I really liked was Vulture grabbed him at one point and went to give like a classic like bad guy like monologue. He was like, "Oh, I got you," and he started doing like talking, and he just goes, "I don't got time for this." And he's like, "Oh," and he like goes down. It was so good to see. Like they really are Spider-Man fans that are making a fun Spider-Man game, and that's what was so exciting. Was like seeing that little shit and seeing like his little quips to like Rhino and stuff was just like,
this is Spider-Man. It's just like
it was so refreshing because we've seen little things, but it was it was super. Yeah, it was clearly Insomniac, no doubt about it.
That's awesome.
But I'm really really excited for this.
Oh,
one. I was already very excited, but seeing the gameplay demo, I'm
more.
like, oh man, I can't wait for this. So that was Sony. I think overall as a showing, I think Sony was my favorite. Because all 4 of those games look
super
incredible and what I want to play. Microsoft had a lot of really good third-party stuff, so I think they were the big ones. And Square Enix obviously was terrible. And we're about to talk about Nintendo, which was terrible. Like, terrible.
Nintendo.
Like, not as bad as Square Enix, but pretty damn close. Nintendo goes into their conference and, they always have the press play video, half hour, 45 minutes, whatever it's going to be. They show a couple of indie games. They announced Overcooked 2 is coming to Switch. They announced Hollow Knight's coming to Switch. Fortnite on Switch. Like, they announced a bunch of little things. And they're like, all right, we're here to show you a game that we're really excited for. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, I think it was called, right? And we're like, all right, cool, let's see Smash. You have to watch the whole thing in order to believe like what actually happened, because it starts out with them kind of like, you have Sakurai sitting there and talking about, hey, I'm really excited to share this game with you guys. You know, I love Sakurai. He's like such a genuine person. And he's like, I've been working hard on this one. I think fans are going to love it. And then they're like, but what we're going to do is we're going to show you the little changes that we've made throughout the games. So first, actually, even before that, they were like, we're going to announce characters that are coming to the game. We're going to put the number in which they were in the game. So it's like Mario's number 1, Link's number 3, Kirby's number 5, whatever they were on like the character select screen or whatever in the first game. So you start going through.
Wait,
like,
the first Smash game?
Yeah, because they're saying, here are the characters in our game that... Here are the characters from past games that are also in this game.
Okay.
And they start going through. And then you're like, oh, cool, Ice Climbers is back, like as they're going through everyone.
So doing every character ever.
So listen, before you even knew that, that's what I'm saying. They were just going through character. Hey, here's another character. Oh, cool. Yeah, Pikachu's back. Kirby's back. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, Ice Climbers. Yeah, they haven't been in for a while. And, oh, this person. That's great. And then you start to realize, are they showing everybody? And then they went through, and every single character that has ever been in a Smash game, whether it's DLC or not, including Bayonetta, including Cloud, including Ryu, anybody, Pac-Man, Snake, anybody that's been in any of these games is in this game. That's when immediately we're like, yeah, this is going to be great. Like, how fun is that? And they're like, but we also have a couple new characters. And they announced the Inklings.
We knew that, though.
What?
We knew they were
Yeah.
coming, though.
We saw them in the teaser or whatever, but they were like, hey, here's a new one. And then they say, let's go through these little changes that we made for each character. And they go through every single character. And some of these things, I'm telling you, when you watch it, it is like unbelievable that they went in this level of depth. Because they're saying they're like, Roy now can, you see he has a little more fire when he does his smash up attack. And then he'll jump to Kirby. And like, since we have all 64 characters in this game, Kirby has so many more costumes for this, and they show a couple of them. Then it'll be like, Mario, you might notice, he has Cappy on his head instead of just his regular cap. Like, that level of detail where it's like, and they went through every character. Every character.
And how many characters were it? Probably like 50?
64.
Oh my god.
65 is Inkling, and 66 is the newly announced character, Ridley.
That's cool.
Ridley's very cool. I'm glad the Inklings are in there too. But, so you thought it was over after that, because you were already like, okay, they showed every little detail about all these characters. It's got to be over. Then they go, here's some new stages we're going to show you. It's like, great. And then they talk about stages for 8 minutes. And then they're like, here are some new changes to the gameplay. And they talk about air dashing and all these different little things and climbing ladders. And it's like, it was, like, I'm telling you, you will not believe it when you watch it.
It was all just Smash.
All Smash. I believe the minute count was like 28 minutes of Smash.
Nothing else.
And it wasn't like a match. It wasn't a gameplay match ever. Like, it was just talking about and like showing little details. It was very weird. I'm telling you, it was very weird.
Huh.
And that's how they ended it. They didn't announce Animal Crossing. They didn't talk about Metroid Prime 4. They didn't show the new Pokemon game.
Oh, that sucks.
Nothing.
That's all they talked about with Smash.
It was so fucking weird, man. I'm telling you. Like, they showed a couple things, and they announced a couple little things before the Smash thing. They, said Octopath is whatever date. There's going to be another demo, June 14th or whatever. Like, okay, cool. They went on like that, and then insane. I'm telling you, watch it. It is, like, unbelievable. So I'm very excited for this game. It comes out December 7th this year, but that was such a bad conference. Such a bad conference. I can't even explain to you how bad. And that's how it ended. That was our last day of E3.
And so, all in all, was E3...
I think you give them the thumbs up, because I think Microsoft showing and Sony showing were so good that they overpower some of the
everything else.
Stuff.
What's the one game you're most excited for?
One game?
One game.
I can't do one. I'll do 3. Cyberpunk, Sekiro, and Ghost of Tsushima.
Actually, I was going to say those two. Ghost of Tsushima and Sekiro, I'm actually the most excited for, it looks like.
But that's what I'm saying. When you have games that look that good at this show,
Yeah.
then you can say, okay, it was a good show.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that whole Sony press conference, those 4 games just look so fucking good.
That'd be some $60 worth spent.
Yeah, exactly.
Worth spending. Well spent.
Well spent. Both. But anyway, that was E3 2018. Thank you guys for being with us here to go through the recaps. Yeah, that's going to do it for us. That's episode 29.
Thank you.
You can catch us next week, every Monday, 9 a.m., circlebackgaming.com.
Happy E3ing. And until next E3.
Until next E3, we don't see you. Peace. What's up, guys? It's Dan from Circle Back. I'm just here to let you know you can find everything that we do at circlebackgaming.com. If you just want the podcast, we're on iTunes. If you just want the video, we're on YouTube. So catch us either place. Thanks.